Welcome back to Love on the Rocks, where the line between love and tragedy blurs, and the truth is often stranger than fiction. Today, we're headed back to San Antonio, Texas, where we have late-breaking news in the case of the disappearance of Suzanne Simpson. As you recall, Suzanne Simpson was last seen on October 6, 2024, at her home in the upscale community of Olmos Park. And it wasn't just a quiet vanishing either. It was a very public and very disturbing incident that was actually witnessed by a neighbor.
And that neighbor's account is really the cornerstone of this whole investigation. They reported seeing Suzanne and her husband Brad in a heated argument that escalated into a physical altercation.
And it gets even more chilling when you hear what the neighbor actually saw. They witnessed Brad grabbing Suzanne by the upper torso, like to restrain her. And then, after the couple disappeared into a nearby wooded area, the neighbor heard Suzanne scream like 2 or 3 times. The neighbor observed Brad driving away in his truck for several hours after that altercation. So if everything was fine, why would he do that? It seems like the police thought the same thing. Because just 3 days after Suzanne's disappearance, they arrested Brad. Initially, Brad was charged with family violence and unlawful restraint.
Right.
Which are serious charges on their own. But it's important to note that those charges stemmed from the events of that night. The investigation into Suzanne's disappearance was still very much in its early stages.
Exactly. And investigators weren't leaving any stone unturned. I mean, their search for Suzanne was extensive, spanning several locations, each carefully chosen based on emerging leads and theories.
But as we know, those searches came up empty. And while this was all happening, things are heating up online. Suzanne's daughter, Chandler, took to social media publicly accusing Brad of killing her mother in a state of rage and control.
Now remember, those are accusations, not established facts. However, they absolutely added fuel to the fire of public speculation surrounding the case.
And just when you thought it couldn't get any more complicated, the case took another sharp turn. Federal charges were brought against Brad. This development was triggered by the discovery of an illegal firearm hidden in the home of Brad's business partner, James Cotter. It wasn't just any gun either. It was a short-barreled rifle, an AK-47, illegally modified. So this introduced the elements of weapons possession and, more importantly, evidence tampering, since the weapon was clearly being concealed. As our Love on the Rocks listeners will recall, in our last update on the disappearance of Suzanne Simpson, Cotter was arrested and charged with evidence tampering and illegal weapons possession right alongside Brad. What's interesting here is that his initial bond was $1 million, but it was drastically reduced to just $100,000, and he was placed under house arrest. Certainly makes you wonder about the nature of Carter's involvement and what kind of deal, if any, he might have struck with prosecutors. It's definitely something to keep in mind as the case progresses.
Absolutely. It seems like every new detail in this case just raises more questions. But one thing is for sure, this case was about to move from a missing persons report into something far more serious. And that's exactly what happened. On November 7th, Brad Simpson was officially charged with murder.
This is where things get really complex. The Texas Rangers, known for their expertise in these kinds of intricate investigations, they must have uncovered some pretty compelling evidence to warrant this murder charge. But here's the catch. The arrest warrant has been sealed for 30 days. So for now, we're left in the dark about the specifics of what led to this charge.
That sealed warrant adds a whole new layer of intrigue to this story, doesn't it? It suggests that the evidence is sensitive, maybe even explosive, and could jeopardize the investigation if it were made public right now.
But we're left with more questions than answers. What kind of information could be so sensitive that it needs to be kept under wraps? What exactly did the Texas Rangers find?
Well, it could be a range of things. It could be a confession from Brad, or maybe a witness who fears for their safety if their identity is revealed. It could even be details about the location of Suzanne's remains, or evidence that more directly links Cotter to the crime.
Also raises questions about what else might be out there. What other pieces of evidence haven't been uncovered yet?
That's what the Texas Rangers are likely focused on right now. They're probably meticulously combing through every detail of Brad and Cotter's lives, looking for any connections or inconsistencies that might lead them to Suzanne. And we know that Brad was initially uncooperative with investigators. How do you think that factors into the case?
And when someone closely connected to a missing person refuses to cooperate, it's a major red flag for investigators. It almost seems like Brad was trying to buy himself time, maybe to cover his tracks.
It's certainly a possibility, but it's also important to remember that even silence can be a form of evidence. A jury might interpret a defendant's refusal to cooperate as a sign of guilt.
What do you think happens next? Where does the investigation go from here?
Well, the Texas Rangers are likely working tirelessly to build a solid case against Brad. They'll be searching for physical evidence, gathering witness testimonies, anything that can definitively connect him to Suzanne's disappearance and potential murder.
Do you think there's a chance they'll be able to find Suzanne?
It's hard to say. Sadly, in cases like this, the victim's body is sometimes never found. But even without a body, prosecutors can still build a strong case based on circumstantial evidence, forensic analysis, and compelling witness accounts.
This whole situation is so unsettling. What was Brad's motive? Did he act alone? What did Cotter really know? We have so many questions.
I think those are the questions everyone following this case is asking. Unfortunately, we don't have those answers yet. But as more information is revealed, hopefully some of those questions will be answered.
It seems like we're left waiting for that sealed warrant to be unsealed. That feels like the next major turning point in this case.
I agree. It's frustrating to be left in suspense, but it's also incredibly intriguing. The unsealing of that warrant has the potential to reveal some shocking information. Just imagine what might be in there. As we continue to follow this case, it's crucial to keep Suzanne's memory alive and to honor her story. We can do that by demanding justice, supporting her family, and raising awareness about the devastating impact of domestic violence.
I think that's the perfect sentiment to carry with us as we move forward. As we wait for the arrest warrant to be unsealed and for more information to come to light, we can each reflect on the complexities of this case and the broader issues it raises. This deep dive is taking us through a whirlwind of emotions, from shock and intrigue to sadness and frustration. I have a feeling the story's far from over.
I agree. There are still so many unanswered questions, and the unsealing of that warrant is sure to bring a wave of new developments. Until then, we can only hope that justice will prevail and that Suzanne's family will find some measure of peace and healing. We encourage you to stay informed, stay engaged, and continue to seek the truth as this case unfolds. We'll be here to guide you through the latest developments and help you understand the complexities of this real-life mystery.
We will continue to keep close tabs on this fascinating story. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so we can bring you further developments regarding this case and the other cases we are currently tracking. And please like this video. It helps us in our efforts to bring you these tragic yet mesmerizing true life stories.